everybody. How we doing? Sammy, United People's TV. I'm just admiring the new intro. The little slow jam. That's the new intro on the podcast as well, which, of course, you've all been listening to. Episode 2 is out today. Wonder how many episodes we're going to be doing. But good morning, everyone. We're going to speak through lots of things this morning. We're going to run through Jamie Carragher's analysis of, I was about to say Eric Ten Hag's system there. Whoop. Of Ruben Amorim's system against Ipswich, the problems and the flaws that we saw. We've already discussed them, but I'll be honest, it was a pretty good bit of analysis from a very spitty man. Won't ever forget that. Won't ever let him forget that. Nor should anybody. We'll also hear from Gary Neville on what he thinks about the squad and the players. We'll hear from Mazraoui on first impressions with Amorim. Same with Dalot. We'll speak about a couple of new academy appointments at United. It's going to be a lot. Nathan, the intro is seductive. Well, come on in. Come on into United People's TV. Good morning, everybody. I hope you're all doing well. Busy. Very busy as always. Let me see who's here from the mod and the member gang. Can I quickly say here, I believe it's now working on Facebook today. Daryl, I can see you there. Good morning to you. We've got Josie, Stephen. Lots of you tuning in from there. Can I say to everybody on Facebook, this week will be the last week that I stream live to Facebook. From Monday coming, it's going to be YouTube only. There are simply too many problems with Facebook. And right now, we're building the brand new loyalty point system for the whole community. And we'd have to build the whole thing out completely twice to exist in YouTube and Facebook. And simply, it's too complicated and too much work. So the last few days that I'll be live on Facebook, so please do come across to YouTube. Of course, it's free. You just get involved. Just watch it on YouTube instead. All right. All the other stuff on Facebook will still be going out. All the videos, the non-live videos, and all the other content we do. All right. Robert, you're asking for the link for YouTube. YouTube.com/United People's TV. All right. Let me just have a look who busy down here in the comments this morning. And good morning to you. Takeoff. We've got Carl, Anuj. We've got Alex, JVD. We've got Josh as well. It is a busy mod army down there. Good morning to you, Stephanie. We've got Joyvin. We've got Saeed. Akash, good morning to you. Jordan, Dean, Eric, and Steve. Ooh. Right, as I said there at the start, please do go and listen to the podcast. Brand new United Daily podcast. I'm going to be promoting it. You know something I'm actually quite bad at? Quite a few people keep saying this to me. I'm not good at promoting the work that I do. So I'm going to shout about the podcast. Been planning this for a long time. So please do listen to it. The more you can listen to it, the more you drop a like on it. More you can leave a 5-star review. We'll read those comments out and the emails. Woo! Get involved. I'm enjoying it. It's basically a condensed version of the live show. 15 minutes. Well, actually, if we're being exact, it's been 12 minutes and 17 seconds. And 11 minutes, 57 seconds. So the aim is every single day to get it under 15 minutes, which is not the easiest thing to do. But I've done it so far. Right? Let's go. I want to speak about this to start this show, right? Do you know how funny this is? Pep Guardiola moaning about injuries and that his squad isn't strong enough. Yeah. I'm not sure about that there, Pep. I mean, nobody's got a squad like City or anywhere near a squad like City. Their second 11 is stronger than the overwhelming majority of starting 11s in the Premier League. It's hilarious. So Pep has absolutely reached that point now where he's saying, well, it's not my fault, all right? If only I had Rodri. You watched that game against Spurs, and I think it was in that game that I realised that the City's problems are not Rodri related. I mean, are they involved? Sure. Not having your best midfielder is going to make your team weaker, but the problems go deeper than that. And I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying it. Hope it continues. It's really annoying, though, that you can't even... As a United fan in these last 10 years, it's like, if there's a City wobble, then you enjoy it, and then you remember that it probably means that Liverpool are going to do better. Or if Liverpool have a wobble, you enjoy it, and then you realise that City are going to do better. It's like, cut off your nose to spite your face. sort of thing. Whenever you try and enjoy City being down, you remember that that gives them the... Why can't Arsenal not be crap? Seriously. Just do your job. Don't care if Arsenal win the league. Their fans are already insufferable. Just win the league, you idiots. Until United are at a point where we can actually do it. And then we'll have it back. Thank you very much. Anyway, Pep. Yeah, good luck moaning about that and using that as an excuse. Anyway. Aaron Wan-Bissaka loves scoring at St James's Park. I don't know what it is there. Did he only score 1 goal for us in the league? I can't remember. But it was an absolute banger. And last night was a cracking goal as well, to be fair to him. Look at the angles he scored with those 2 goals. Fair play. Newcastle. Oh dear, oh dear. Did you hear the commentary just in the build-up to the game before kickoff? I think Theo Walcott was asked, what chances do you give West Ham? None. And then they're all giggling and laughing. And then West Ham go and win 2-0. Anyway, fair play, Aaron Wan-Bissaka. Isn't it, I think of all the transfers that happened this summer, I'm not saying that people were upset that Wan-Bissaka was leaving, but there seemed to be quite a lot of energy. I think it was down to the fact that he was actually a pretty consummate professional throughout his whole time there. But we're not missing Wan-Bissaka in any way, shape or form. I don't think anyway. Like, Mazraoui has been our best signing of the season, for sure. Zach, you're saying he scored 2 for us? Where did he score the other one? Can't remember. Spurs? Have I just made it up? I don't know. Stephanie saying City's smugness has vanished completely. It's amazing. Oh, look at that. Who kicked off the show with that? Eric, dude. Gifting 10 memberships. It is a good morning. Let me see if I can bring Casemiro out. Will it work? Question mark, question mark. I think it will.
Good morning. Good morning.
Success.
Good morning. Hello.
That's still funny. That is still funny. Connor, you sent a super chat. What did you say, dude? And read this out. You're saying, very strange this. Usually injured City players take a trip to Barcelona for a consultation. Wink, wink. Nudge, nudge. And they're back in no time. Doc must be on holiday. It's such a shame seeing what's happened to City. Really is just such a... He scored against Southampton in the 9-0. Yeah, I completely made it up then. Anyway, good to see Wan-Bissaka doing well. Got plenty of time for him. And the final little conversation before we move into the main part of today's show and we speak about Carragher and Neville and Monday Night Football and the Amorim squad. This was Ed Sheeran yesterday on Instagram saying, look, apologies if I offended Amorim. I don't think Amorim was offended. Didn't actually realise he was being interviewed at the time. And to be fair to him, right, if I was to ever walk across after a game of football on the pitch, 5 people standing in front of 2 TV cameras with 3 lights next to a Super Sunday table, all with microphones in their hands, I would be a bit confused as to whether or not... What are you talking about, man? Of course they're doing an interview. What a weird way to try and wriggle out of that one. He was probably just a bit pissed. I said at the podcast this morning, I think it's more the fault of the... There should be producers that stop people coming into shot. Right? It's not... It's just a weird thing there to try and say, I didn't actually know I was getting interviewed. Okay, nobody believes that, mate. Nobody believes that. Right. Let's move on and let's talk about it. Now, yeah, Conor, there is no harm done. I think it's more, it reflects worse on Sky Sports than it does. It's just frustrating how poor Sky Sports has become. Saying that, I'm gonna praise it here. I'm gonna praise Jamie Carragher. I'm not going to play this analysis because I'm absolutely going to get slapped for copyright. However, I can comment on it. If you haven't watched it, go over to Sky Sports Premier League YouTube channel, and you'll see Jamie Carragher's analysis of the Ipswich game, speaking about the positives that we saw in terms of the shape of United going forward for the goal, but ultimately the questions and concerns that exist with the 3-4-3 from what we saw with these current players. And this particular screen grab I've got here is Jamie Carragher speaking about Casemiro and how Amorim's telling Casemiro to push up the field And you can see him there, and you can see Amorim down there gesturing to move further up the pitch. You can see that there. But he doesn't have the energy to do it in the way that we need him to, that this system needs him to. And yeah, honestly, I think it was a really, really good piece of analysis. It must be so much fun. I like doing tactical analysis, but it must be so much fun just to have access to like all the footage and be able to really use the footage. It makes explaining things so much easier. But Casemiro was a problem. Eriksen was a problem. Evans was a problem. And you know what? I'm gonna run through Carragher's comments now on the squad, right? But I think what we really, really saw in this game was this, right? Well, first of all, we know that they've only had a couple of training sessions, so it's going to take some time for the subconscious stuff, the decision making, which was slow, to be sped up, and that obviously makes everything just a lot slicker and quicker. This is the thing here, right? And especially with, if we go back to this part here, you can see over there, that's Johnny Evans, right? That's Amari Hutchinson, who was a problem for United in the whole game. Now, Amorim spoke after the game and said, look, Evans needed to press Hutchinson. So he would have told him to squeeze up to the number 10, to close that space, to have that higher line. But in that game, in that moment, Johnny Evans decides, when the ball comes through, to turn away and hold back. And that's just kind of a natural instinct for him, because of he knows his pace, he knows his ability, and he knows the space he has to cover. So despite the fact that Ruben Amorim was telling these players to move up, these players were naturally thinking to do something different. And that's the big issue. I don't think it's necessarily that the players are ignoring instructions. It's just the players know their own bodies and they know their own capabilities. Steve, you're saying Evans was worried about getting turned and not being able to get back. It's exactly what it was. It's exactly the same with Casemiro. They're listening to what the manager is telling them, but they know their own limits physically, and they can't execute the plan that he is asking them to do. That was the biggest differential, I think, that we saw in that Ipswich game. I don't think that it's the players like, oh, they're throwing a manager under the bus, or they're just ignoring what the manager's telling them to do. They're listening. They just can't do it. They just physically cannot do it in the system. You can tell players, you can tell anybody to do anything in life. If they physically can't do it, then it doesn't matter how well you coach them or how many times you tell them. They won't be able to do it. That's what I think, anyway. Let me see what you're saying. Madison is saying program to sit deep. Again, that's definitely part of it. Naturally, their instinct is to turn back rather than to push forward. And that's something that needs to change. Rex, you're saying, hi, Sam. I was really hoping Casemiro, with the support in midfield he needed, would be decent until 2026. I can see him causing trouble if no. Casemiro will be a handshake at the end of the season and goodbye. The same with Eriksen. The same with Evans. Carl saying, why not have switched Evans and Dalot in the game? Would have suited them both better. Now, that's a good comment, Carl. And I'll be honest, I agree. I said in my pre-match preview that I would play Evans as a central centre-back, because that player doesn't have to move as much. Dalot might not be the most mobile in the world, but he's certainly more mobile than Johnny Evans. And I think it should have been Mazraoui left centre-back, Dalot right centre-back, and Evans as the central centre-back. And look, I would be amazed if we see that back three play again this season. Evans, Dalot, and Mazraoui. I don't think Mazraoui was a problem. I just don't think those three together, and especially with Eriksen and Casemiro in front of them, like that as a defence, you will not see again. Against Bodo Glimt, there will be changes. I'll run through my starting 11 tomorrow, but there will be changes. And there's so many in that team. Like let's run through what Jamie Carragher had to say about the squad here, and I'll get your opinions on it. But I don't think it's the players ignoring what the manager is asking them to do. I just think they're not actually capable of carrying it out. And that's a problem. This squad, I still stand by my point that this squad is better than what we're seeing still currently. I tell you what, there are some players that have to go. Is that Yusuf down there? Your legend, gifting 10 memberships as well, all of you. Make sure you get involved. This is something that I've been so aware of for quite a long time here on this channel. Quickly, 10 seconds tell you this. I want to be able to give more back to those that give to the channel. And that's why I want to bring in the loyalty point system. Create like some rewards that you can redeem. Maybe make a big raffle that all of you can enter. The more points you earn. It's stuff like that I want to take this community further forward and bring everyone in a bit more. Anyway, this is what Jamie said about the squad, right?
No. Because, number one, a lot of those players aren't good enough to be playing for Manchester United, no matter what the system is. The fact the managers come in is because it hasn't been good enough. So he'll want, I wouldn't just say his own players. I think that was almost something that we say a long time ago. But certain players to suit certain positions in this system that are slightly...
I won't run through the whole thing. I'll probably even get shut down for that one. But Jamie Carragher just going on to explain that he feels that this squad is not good enough overall for Ruben Amorim, that players in the wing-back roles in particular aren't suited. Because if you're looking at... Who would you say, on paper, I'll ask this is an interesting one, in the comments. Who would you say is the best natural fit as the left wing-back at United? And who's the best natural fit as the right wing-back inside the current squad when everyone's fit? I think I would probably say Luke Shaw and Diogo Dalot. But then I know and understand that Ruben Amorim likes his right wing-back to be more of a converted winger and somebody who plays with the left foot so he can cut inside for different passing angles. I said it before a game was played that wing-backs would be my biggest concern alongside central midfield. Darryl, you're saying Shaw is the best left-back. Steve, you're saying Shaw and Ahmad. Paul, you're saying Dalot and Shaw. Neville, you're saying Shaw left, Mazraoui right. Mazraoui and Manasseh, someone said down there. Left wing-back, Luke Shaw. Right wing-back, Dalot. Yeah, it's just... I still do... I really don't know where I stand on Dalot. Because I think from an actual athletic perspective, he's quite far ahead of the overwhelming majority of this United squad. I think he does exactly what a manager asked him to do. I think he does have ability. I think he is consistent to a certain degree, but he switches off in games. Does he have the quality that we need inside that? I don't know. I think he would make a very good right centre-back, you could argue. Defence is where we're going to get most changes and most options. Jonathan, you're saying that Ahmad's isn't a wing-back either. Well, wing-backs can be created. I think we saw, for Ahmad to play how he did against Ipswich after 3 training sessions, really does bode well that if he has 6 months, for example, of training as a wing-back under Amorim, if you can be that good after 3 days in a Premier League game, how much more could you develop? And you would argue a fair amount more. There's a couple of super chats. Let me read these out. Who was that? Pyro, what are you saying, sir? You are saying, I really dislike some of our fan base. Fair enough. Some people are already asking for Rude back. Ah? Man, wait, I don't know where you're reading that. They need to stop drinking. When someone says stuff that ridiculous, you know they're just doing it for engagement. You know they're just doing it to bait you into an argument. Like they say something so outside the realms of ordinary that a rational fan will react to it, and they're like, Meh. They just sit there giggling, and they love the attention, because being infamous is just as significant to them as being famous. They don't care if they're in the spotlight for the wrong reasons, as long as they're in the spotlight. It's how some people operate. I don't understand it. I've never, ever understand it, but yeah, some people do. Someone there speaking about Martinez, saying, hey, look, I've got question marks about Martinez inside that left centre-back role. I really do. Anyway, let's actually run through some of what Gary Neville had to say as well, right? He was speaking about red flags, familiar feelings, and I just want to run through this part from Gary. Now, my lunchtime video, I'm going to run through some clips of both of them and do a little bit of a concise analysis rather than just reacting to the live chat as well, because not everybody can get involved in this show. Now, let's see what Gary had to say in terms of the red flags of the performance. He goes, the red flags that were there yesterday would have been there probably for the last few months and the last season and a half of a team that are very difficult to actually like watching, right? Go down here speaking about the players. They don't want criticism, but you watch them play. Even yesterday, the new system, you look at Ipswich, blah, blah, blah. They look like they've got more appetite for the game and more enthusiasm. And this analysis could so easily have been dropped into, I would say, 75% of Manchester United's games for this season and all of last season. Those exact lines. Switching out the team, but if you look at Southampton or you look at someone else, not Ipswich, they've got more appetite for the game. We go down here. And this is a fair point here. It's been a constant for a long, long time, and it feels like the players have almost created a pattern for themselves. What is your take, right, on this United squad? Okay? I've already told you mine. I'm just going to go down and I'm going to read some of your comments out. My opinion is that there will be a fair amount of improvement internally across the course of this season. I think players that you all thought were... I'm not going to name any names here because I actually don't know. But I think players who are getting scorned now, they will improve and get better. I think the team will overall improve and get better without the need for any new signings. However, so much renewal is still needed. I'm reducing my word from overhaul to renewal. I don't know how many levels down that is in terms of squad changes. But you're definitely looking at a midfield. If there's going to be anywhere that gets an overhaul, it's midfield. Right? And you're saying that you can't train mentality. I mean, I kind of disagree with that to a certain degree. Mentality is built off experiences. Partly, anyway. And you build that you build that sort of self-confidence, and that drives the mentality, and it all kind of it's self-serving and feeds into the other. Let me see what you're saying down here. Richie, you're saying the biggest concern is weak mentality and the lack of passion. Lack of passion. Jeez. It is, isn't it weird? Isn't it just, it's not weird, it's fucking boring. How often we've repeated this over the last 2-3. And people are like, you know, when it came towards the end of Eric Ten Hag, like, it's the players again. It's the players getting another manager sacked. Like, the majority of this squad wasn't here a few years ago. There has been a lot of change, and the exact same things have happened. There's only like a couple of players like Shaw and Rashford who have been here for like a substantial amount of time. It's I think you can train mentality. I think mentality ultimately comes from the leadership. Hence why the mentality at our club has been so woeful for so long. But now you've got Amorim. Above him, you've got Ashworth. Above him, you've got Barada. Above him, you've got Brailsford. Above him, you've got Ratcliffe. You've got all of that before you get to anything to do with the Glazers. So the mentality shift has happened a lot. But yeah, there were a load of red flags. And I think that's, for me, and my analysis, that's the thing I think that Amorim will be most pissed off at. Not the fact that the players, like he even said it after the game, he goes, I can see the players are trying. But yeah, trying only gets you so far. You can try. Don't know why I keep coming with the guitar analogies. You can try. I could try right now my hardest to play the guitar, but I would be shit. It would sound awful. No matter how much, I could sit there for 8 hours a day. I'd probably improve on it. But time is of the essence. And I think that's probably what disappointed him the most. I think he's realised, it doesn't really matter what we do in training, how well I see them doing it. The reality is in a game environment, they're going to revert to what they know rather than what I'm telling them. Because they're not capable of doing what I'm telling them. That's an issue. So I don't know how you bridge that gap. Yeah, or, Dara, you could just quit. You could just quit. I think he will quit on behalf of some of these players. What else is he saying down here in the comments? Akash saying, change in mentality suggests breaking old habits. Linkin Park once wrote a tune called Breaking the Habit. Maybe he's just walking to the training room, just... Because that's partly what it is. It's breaking the habits of what you've done previously. Jordan is saying it shows they only play for the wages, nothing else. Nah, I disagree with that. Is it? I'm kind of not stunned into silence, but I'm thinking of how you assess this squad. There are much better footballers in those players than what we are seeing. But there has to be a drive from within. You can try and get somebody to do something, right? And you could be like an excellent coach, an excellent person, an excellent friend. You could keep trying and trying and trying and trying. But if that individual does not want to do said thing, then you're kind of on a hiding to nothing. It needs to be a two-way street. You need to have a desire from that individual person, friend, family member, footballer to want to do that change, and you can then help guide them through it. So it has to be two-way. So if there isn't, and it comes down all the way back to that buy-in. If there's 100% buy-in, then Amorim's really got a chance. Halftime Orange is saying he's had 5 days. Why is everyone over-analysing? We're just running through what Carragher and Neville spoke about on Monday Night Football. I think it's just it's revolving back round to the squad again. Carl, the classic one, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. You need that buy-in from the two directions. And yeah, I'll run through it in my lunchtime video there today. But to sort of finish, I think Carragher's analysis of the issues that Evans had, the issues that Casemiro and Eriksen had, I thought were actually spot on. It's what I saw in the game. So as much as he spits at kids, that was a pretty good bit of analysis. And I think it's just interesting to hear Gary Neville's sort of point of view. Madison, I will take that 10 quid off you right now because there is no way that Amorim's switching to a back four for these players. He has made that abundantly clear. You know when some people say things, once, you think, oh, they might forget about it. Amorim has repeated again and again and again and again and again and again. It's my way. This is the identity. We will suffer. There will be problems. But if we don't do it now, in a year's time, we're going to be back to this system. Same problems. Nothing is changing. No, Frogman back 4-4-2 suits United better. Fuck that. Sod that. Get it out your head, people. He is not changing his way to fit. I don't care. You think I care what suits United better? Look at how crap we've been for 10 years, people. What do you mean suits United better? Come on. It suits United better if you want to be mid-table. Fine. But we don't want to be mid-table. We want to be competing at the very, very top. So we have to mould ourselves to the identity of a man who can lead. And that's exactly what we're doing. There's no way that he changes to a back four. And I don't care how many games or how many problems there are. This is when you got to stick through it. And it's all easier said than done when you're this side of it. Once you're in a position where United, hypothetically, fingers crossed, doesn't happen, touch wood and all that we lose 6 in a row, well, then there's problems. And then you might have to find a way out of that. But again, to final point about the tactics and the approach, blah, blah, blah. Amorim has as again reiterated on multiple occasions, because I don't really know why people are so obsessed over the fact that we're playing 3 at the back. Whether you play 3 at the back, whether you play 4 at the back, 5 at the back, it doesn't really matter. As long as you all have the same characteristics and principles. It's like when Amorim was speaking to Gary Neville before the game, in that interview, and he was asked by Gary, he goes, will you be implementing or asking for the academy teams to all play in a 3-4-3 system, so by the time they come through into the first team, they're already accustomed to that style of play? And Amorim was like, no, not at all. He goes, actually, it would be more beneficial if these players kind of play different systems, because then they understand more when they come into the first team. But as long as the principles exist with the under 16s, 17, 18s, 19s, as long as the mentality exists at those age groups, those are the things that I won't really be able to teach a youngster by the time they come into the first team environment. As long as they've got those fundamentals, I can coach them into playing in a back 3. It's not a problem. So that was his approach with the academy, and that'll be his approach with the first team as well. It's not really about the system. It's about the characteristics of the individuals. If you get all those right, the system works. Anyway, speaking about Mazraoui, speaking about Amorim, this is what Mazraoui had to say.
My first impression
Don't know why I made that noise.
are really good. His social skills are really good. He's on point. Everybody understands what he says, like, directly. And
isn't it weird how many? I don't know. Maybe it's weird. Maybe it was the biggest issue. It was always my concern with Erik ten Hag was that communication. But we've heard Mazraoui speak about how clear and sort of how good his social skills are with the players. We've heard so many other players say it as well. Yeah. I don't know whether it's because the Sky have just clipped up that 13 seconds. So it makes it seem, it probably does when you think about it like that. But Mazraoui praising how impressive Amorim has been so far in terms of how clear he's been. And Diogo Dalot saying the same sort of thing. But and this is where I think people will be fair to understand. Fair to understand doesn't make sense either. I remember when Diogo Dalot gave an interview out on Erik ten Hag's first preseason, which I think was in Australia. I can't remember exactly, but I think it was in Australia. And that was when we were doing the double sessions. And Dalot sat down there and said, he's exactly what this team needs. Somebody with some discipline, somebody with tactical understanding, blah, blah, blah. So Dalot's saying the same thing here about Ruben Amorim, but it's kind of what a lot of people think. Whenever the new manager comes in, it's exactly what you need until it isn't what you need. Pyro, you're saying, I like the fact that Amorim wants to do less interviews. It's kind of part and parcel of being the United manager. Being a sporting manager, I'm sure there was an ability to, I don't know, sneak off, have a little cheeky glass of wine somewhere. Not a problem. Relaxing. Not United. It is, the spotlight is fierce. Absolute spotlight. Ravi saying you fell for the Sky bait on throwing shade at Ten Hag. Yeah, it kind of feels like that a little bit now. Now that I've realised it's just a 13-second clip. I do think that was an issue under Erik ten Hag, though. Right? Let me see what you're saying. Let's wait until people start saying Amorim can't communicate. Well, you saw, what was it, one game it took for Danny Murphy on BBC saying, I think he's going to drop the 3 at the back system. Just send the assistant, says King Cantona. I think we've now got the Adelio Candido, who's 28, I think is the youngest coach or youngest assistant manager. Actually, was he a first-team coach at United? In the league. There was a really interesting stat. Where was it from? Can't remember where it was from. But showing the breakdown of percentages of English or managers around the world who have played football before. And I think England was like 83% of managers in the leagues are former players. And right at the bottom, interestingly enough, was Portugal. and only 36% of Portuguese managers had actually played the game. Now, of course, Ruben Amorim did play the game. But I thought that was interesting. And I think the conversation suggested that coaching was seen as a career path on its own in Portugal rather than in England. And we've seen it, so many jobs for the boys. Just because you're a former player, it made me laugh. It made me work. Frog man, you're getting offended. You make me laugh, Sam. Your opinion is no better than mine or anybody else's. No. An opinion can't be wrong. An opinion is someone's opinion. But I can disagree with it. And that's what I did there. I'm not suggesting that my opinion is any better than yours. I never do. That's what conversation and debate and disagreeing with each other's opinions is all about. Right? I'm sure that plenty of you don't agree with my opinions. But at halftime, they're completely bullshit. Anyway. Diogo Dalot again here speaking about the instructions that Amorim gave him. Dalot playing as the left wing back against Ipswich because Mazraoui is not fit enough, because Luke Shaw's not fit enough, and yeah, we didn't really. I mean, who else could have played there? You could have played Mazraoui as left wing back, and then you could have played Mazraoui there. Either way, I think from a professional perspective and from an athleticism perspective, Amorim's really going to like Dalot. Whether or not he technically feels he does enough and offers enough in whatever position he is in, I don't know. We'll find out across the course of the season. But given that athleticism is probably the main thing that I think he's been talking about that we can fix in the short term, how much people control the game, the players control the game, and how, actually fit they are to execute what I'm asking. I think you're going to be seeing plenty of Dalot, right? And yeah, that's a good comment there from Mania saying it's not just about sprinting. Like, if you're sprinting, it kind of half suggests that you're out of position in the first place, unless you're sprinting to close someone down and then sprinting back into position. That's a little bit different. But Mazraoui doesn't need to sprint as much because he's kind of invariably in a better position at the right time. By comparison, I'm thinking that's how I remember Michael Carrick operating as a midfielder. He wasn't like Kante. He didn't run around like constantly. That the engine of Kante was just unrivaled, right up there with Park Ji-sung. But what Michael Carrick did so amazingly well was he positioned himself in the passing lanes. So you don't actually have to run and sprint to a player if you can think a step ahead and you know exactly where they're going to pass. So you just stand in the way of it. And Carrick was so good at interceptions. He wasn't somebody who would buzz around and be like a terrier, sort of. I suppose like Ugarte is going to play. Carrick just knew where the pass was going to go before the pass happened. So he just stepped in the way of it. That's what he was so good at. There's just different ways of approaching the game. My opinion on Dalot is I think that he will... I think he'll play more than this season than people suggest. That would be my guess. Whether that happens past this season, I don't know. But I think this season, you'll see a fair amount of Dalot under Amorim. What we're saying down here in the comments. Do you think Amorim will abandon his 3-4-3? That's another person that keeps asking that. Honestly, it's a mute question. Okay, maybe I'm looking at it completely wrong. Sam, that Amorim keeps saying that the system isn't really as important. It's more about the characteristics and the individuals. To a certain degree, I think that's correct. But Amorim, in what? I think around 90 to 95% of his games at Sporting played a 3-4-3. If you think that that's going to switch after one game at United because we were poor against Ipswich, then no. Go back and listen to Amorim's interviews. He said, I was brought to United for a reason. Why would I then change that straight away? It doesn't make any sense. It's like you're brought into a job because you're great at something. But the company does something that, let me just do what the company does. Well, no, mate, that's not why we brought you into the company. All right? We brought you in to shift that to what you've done best. Speaking about best, segue. Onana right now feels form-wise, would you say it's a fair comment type, yes or no? Feels like he's in his best form in terms of consistency as a Manchester United player. It feels like it. And it's such a shame. This isn't just for Onana, but this is just goalkeepers in general. No one speaks about a goalkeeper when they're doing their job correct. Oh, it's his job. But everybody speaks about a goalkeeper when they make a mistake, because invariably, when goalkeepers make mistakes, it leads directly to a goal. Onana's been really consistent this season. I think he's actually kept more clean sheets than anybody in the league so far. Made a couple of blinding saves against Ipswich. And I'll be honest, I absolutely backed him to save that if it wasn't for a little nick off Mazraoui's head. He came through a lot of criticism, and deserved criticism, because he was basically throwing the ball in his own net in that first season. Those mistakes he made in the Champions League were just really weird. Anyway, big up to Onana, and he's won a FIFA Pro Player Impact Award for his inspirational work with his charity. Genuinely seems like a good dude as well. Nice personality. It's important. Andy saying, Amorim dropped a warning, Ari coaching and decision-making. Well, yeah, if you can't really coach decision-making, it's down to the individuals. And I think that's, again, ties back to what I said he's probably most annoyed about. It's the fact that he's told these players to do something, and they are doing something. Their decisions in the game are not what he has coached them to do. Well, you can't do that, right? Josiah saying Erik ten Hag got it right with Onana at least. I may have been overzealous in my analysis of Onana and saying how much he could transform United. That was probably better. Well, it was best case scenario. However, I still think there is so much more what we are going to see from Onana. There is still so much more that he can bring from a playing out from the back perspective, and those mid-range passes. I think they're the things that have always annoyed me the most about Onana. Well, shot stopping in the first season, but those those like 20, 30-yard passes that's kind of over the first man in the press to either a wing-back or to a central midfielder. Those balls that are just long, we get such a crap conversion rate on those. Like they don't stick with Højlund or Rashford, and never wins a header. So what's the point in knocking it long? You see De Gea made like a triple save for Fiorentina that day. I think it was against Como. It's good. I'm happy to see De Gea enjoying himself. And Florence is nay a bad city to go and have a swan song in your career. I bet he's having the time of his life out there. I want to go live in Florence for a few years. Yeah, the long balls to nobody. Just rein those in a bit. But I'm really, really happy for Onana to see the sort of the criticism that he came through. It's time that people... Just goalkeepers don't get the praise that they should do when they are playing well. Oh, don't jinx it, Sam. It's not what I'm saying. Oh, Ryan saying that another player abused by the fan base. I don't think I've ever abused Onana. My criticism has been pretty fierce, sure. But abuse for me, the concept of abuse, I think, is when you go beyond what you're seeing on the pitch. And then you start to pull into question like personality and character traits and who they are away from the pitch. And then that's where it kind of steps away from football and it becomes a little bit more than just criticism, constructive or not, about a performance on the pitch. I think the only player that I've, hands up, gone too far on was Maguire. I definitely went too far on Maguire. Man, I was pissed at that point. I remember that. Bad times. Anyway, let's move on to the next thing. What are we talking about here? Oh, it's just a picture of Ruben Amorim. Don't even think I've got a conversation point. Just a nice picture of Ruben Amorim. Good looking bastard. What else are you saying down here in the comments? There seems to be a whole argument going on around David De Gea. Interesting. Gear saying, don't underestimate how big the changes are needed in the squad to make them challenge for the league. I think, well, this summer you know what we're going to be seeing. Probably 3 main big signings and maybe 2 squad signings. Would be what I imagine. 5 in, 5 out. That's what I imagine we'll try and do for the next 2 summers. And probably just in general, really doing that. January, I'm not expecting... I'll speak about transfers in a little bit. Before we move on, speak about transfers, can I say, please do drop a like on the video, 45 minutes in. And if you want to, drinking out the King's Cup. I haven't done that since uni. Man, Ring of Fire. Who came up with that idea? I always thought it was a good idea. I think I've spoken about Ring of Fire like a couple of weeks ago. The amount you used to pre-drink at uni before you go out was nutty. That the concept of it was that I don't want to pay for any drinks when I'm out, so I want to be just at the point where I'm too drunk as I walk in, as long as you can get in. All fun and games. What are we saying down here? Jonathan, you're saying miles off challenging for a league. Let's try. Yeah. And again, that's something that Gary Neville, I think, touched upon quite well in his sort of video, which I'll run through at lunchtime today. It's not about top 4. It's not about a trophy. And that's what I've said as well. Like, the measure of success between now and the end of the season is this team really heading in the right direction together under Ruben Amorim? The success can follow, but I don't think any United fan is looking at a top 4 finish. I know it's on, sure, but that's not going to be the measure of whether we succeed or not. If we sneak into a top 4, having won 1 game 1 week, lost 2, then won 5 in a row, then lost 3, then won 6 in a row, and we get into the top 4, does that really show as much progress as United just progressively, slowly heading in the right direction? No more rollercoaster football. That's what I don't want to see. Someone asking what I did at uni. I did history. I was really disappointed in my degree, actually. I went to history. I did history at uni because I like war, not because I'm a warmonger, but I just always found war interesting. And then when I went to uni, it ended up being like a politics degree. It was boring. And I did so much history on 20th century Russia that I got an accent. Damn. SARS, Tsar Nicholas, Bolshevik Revolution, Cold War, Stalin, all the jobbies. Right, move on to this little point. A little separate bit of news about the academy. United have brought in 2 new faces to the academy, Tom Curtis and Simon Wiles. And this is who they're going to be. Curtis has joined as the head of player development for the youth development phase, under 13s to under 16s, which is exactly the role that was held by Adam Lawrence before. Who's Adam Lawrence, I hear you say? Adam Lawrence is currently our coach for the under 18s, who has been absolutely nailing it. He started off in that role, the head of player development for the youth development phase, then went in to become a coach for the first time, and then last season we won the treble with the under 18s. This season we're played 9, won 9, scored 43 and conceded 4 goals. So he's been brought in, Tom Curtis, to operate in that same role. And then you've got Simon Wiles. And interestingly, look at that. So Curtis worked for the FA for the last decade, and most recently, he led England's youth development programme. So he's going from that role to Manchester United in the same role that Adam Lawrence had before he was under 18s coach. And then you've got Simon Wiles, who's coming in as the lead under 14s coach, and he's coming across having been a first-team coach at Salford City. So it's 2 new faces in the academy. And yeah, I'm not going to tell you what, where, or when, or how, or why. I've got something cooking in the background that I've been working on for a long, long time. And I'm closer to getting it done than I ever have been before. And when it happens, this channel levels up again. Big time. I'm excited. So keep an eye out for that. And look, let's end the show here with a quick 5-10 minute chat about what's been whispered in the transfer gossip sphere, whatever you want to call it. Florian Plettenberg speaking for Sky Sports Germany, just speaking about the left back. Fabrizio Romano did a video yesterday as well saying, look, Amorim's priority, don't know why he's from Birmingham. Amorim's priority is a left back. That's who United want. Whether it's going to be in the January window or whether it's going to be in the summer, we don't know. But United want a left-back. Now, Alphonso Davies, United could, in theory, agree a pre-contract agreement with him in January, right? I think they could. Real Madrid are, of course, sniffing around him. They're sniffing around Trent Alexander-Arnold. Is he free as well in the summer? I think he is. Theo Hernandez, though, I kind of agree with the comment down there, says Brian. Is Theo Hernandez really going to be high up our list? Yeah. I kind of put him on the same sort of level as Benjamin Pavard when we were linked with him as a right back. I don't think he'd be a bad right back. But Benjamin Pavard's really going to be what we need? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm being unfair. But I think we'd probably go for someone younger. Alphonso Davies is just like, if you can get Alphonso Davies, then you kind of sort yourself out straight away. Football Diary saying, hi Sam, how likely is it that Amorim gets Quenda? We'll speak about Quenda next. But left back is going to be the main focus point. Whether that is that, if there's going to be an overhaul, then there will be overhauls in certain positions. Left back, there's going to be a big old overhaul at United. You've got Luke Shaw at the club, Malacia at the club. You've got Harry and Mass, who's there as well. What's going to be happening with those three? All at various points in their career. Shaw is somebody I think that we should be moving on this summer. Malacia, if I'm being completely honest, I would probably move both of them on. I would give Harry and Mass the pathway, and I would bring in one new left wing back, and I would have a new left wing back and Harry and Mass as my two options next season. And we move on Malacia and Shaw, and it's just, it's a very ruthless thing to say. I know it is, but I'm tired, Robbie. We can't possibly go into next season with Shaw and Malacia as our options. It can't be done. Go and have careers elsewhere. Alvaro Fernandez, the buyback clause would exist. 16 million. Ait Nouri is a good shout as well. Milos Kerkez, Alphonso Davies. You could throw Theo Hernandez's name into that list as well. Daryl saying, we cannot move Malacia out. A ridiculous opinion. I'm sorry, ladies and gents. Apparently it is a ridiculous opinion that a player who hasn't kicked a ball for our football club for 18 months could be moved on in the summer. That's a ridiculous opinion, apparently. That's quite funny. I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do when he comes back. And I'm so hopeful that Malacia's explosive power, that was his best asset, he hasn't lost that as a consequence of the injury. And that will take time to get. It's a bit like Luke Shaw coming back after the injury, the leg break. It took him quite a while, didn't it, to go into big tackles. Because he has that confidence. And once he had it, it was better. Malacia deserves a fit season. Well, he's going to have a fit half a season. Right? And then we'll make a call in the summer. I think if there's going to be an overhaul in the left back situation. What the overhaul is, I don't know. There will be an overhaul in central midfield as well. And there'll be renewals in other areas. But left back or wing back and central midfield are where the two overhauls happen this summer, I think. I did watch a Mass against, who was it? Was it Altrincham? I think it was. Looked pretty good. I mean, Harry Mass has always been good technically on the ball. That's not really been any questions. He really is like a little bit of a Luke Shaw regen in terms of how he plays, his stature, his posture, the movements, the body shapes. It's quite fair. Sam, that's so harsh from Malacia. It's like, people, you cannot want United to be a ruthless football club and then consider it harsh and ridiculous to have a conversation about moving on a player who has been injured for 18 months. That sucks. It is horrendous for him. But we need to do what is right for this football club. And I know what isn't right for this football club. Going into next season with Luke Shaw and Tyrell Malacia as our only two left-back options. That change needs to happen. All right? Who's knocking on my door? Can you leave it outside the door, please? Thank you, mate. See if that works. Might not work. We'll find out. And also there's little conversations about Quenda. I say little conversations, they're bloody massive conversations. But you're seeing this from the Portuguese press. United are preparing an offer of £50 million for Quenda, blah, 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 blah. If there are two players you think that Amorim's going to be going and looking to sign in the summer, won't be January, you're going to be going for Quenda, probably as the right wing back, and Gyökeres as the striker. They'd be the two players I think that he would look out for. Quenda, of course, he's only a 17-year-old. He's only this season been converted from a winger in Sporting's system with the under-23s to a right wing back under Ruben Amorim. That development happened because Ruben Amorim coached him, not because he was a wing back. He just saw potential and it worked. 50 mil, that is a lot. Stop calling Ugarte a terrier. That's the most unthreatening name ever. Just like a little yappy dog that's sitting here. Won't leave you alone. Anyway, 50 mil for a 17-year-old who's just broken through as a converted wing-back is a lot of wedge. A lot of wedge. I mean, let's be honest, he looks very good. And at 17, you'll be getting the whole career ahead of him, but it's a lot of wedge. It's a lot of money. Offering big money for Quenda feels like a mistake. We'll find out, right? I think Ahmad can do the same in that position. Quenda is from an athletic perspective, his frame is very different to Ahmad. Very different. Ugarte is not a bloodhound. Bloodhound's the one with big floppy ears that look stoned, just kind of stare at you. Drooly dogs. Why do people like drooly dogs? Could someone tell me in the comments? I like dogs. Do you like dogs? But drooly dogs, proper slobbery numbers. What's the point? I'd rather have a dog that molted than a dog that's slobbered. What was it, St. Bernard? What's Beethoven? Can't remember. The big slobbery ones. Not for me. Nor pugs. Poor pugs, man. I can hardly breathe. Anyway, a little bit of a segue there, talking about dogs. Last minute of the show. Fire any questions into the comments you want me to answer, and I will answer them. Soul, I'm getting swatted. No, I don't think I'm getting swatted. I'm going to find out if I get something left on the front doorstep, though. That might be good. But yeah, main talking point for today's lunchtime video is going to be a quick run through of the analysis from Carragher on the squad and also on the system, and also Gary Neville's comments too, and asking, are they right about United's squad? Because I think I'm looking at it slightly less harsh, but maybe I'm wrong. You can be right and you can be wrong, right? Plenty of dog owners in the comments. And you got a Frenchie. I'm going to get a dog at some point. I like Weimaranas, but they're a bit big. Be a lot of walking going on there. Can Cobby get a chance? Well, we might see Cobby against Bodo Glimt. I think what you're more likely to see, I'll run through it in my starting 11, but you're more likely to see the players who are questionable in terms of injuries probably getting 30 minutes, the last 30 minutes against Bodo Glimt. So Shaw coming on. Like Shaw came on against Ipswich, so maybe he'll be fit enough to start. Don't know. But Cobby should get some minutes. Mainu should get some minutes. Cobby is Mainu. I meant Cobby and Lenny Yoro. Right, we'll run through that a little bit later in the week. But thank you all for tuning in. As always, please do drop a like on the video. If you listened to the podcast this morning, I hope you did enjoy it. Make sure you send your emails in, podcast@unitedpeoples.tv. I'll include comments from you every single day. All right? I did listen to the new Kendrick album, and I loved it. Kendrick was angry. You can always tell, I think anyway, when an artist does an album with a genuine purpose. You know, sometimes people make music to make music. Because I need to put out an album next year, so I put an album out. When an album is made with a real purpose and a real focus, the music that comes out the back of it is better. And I think that's exactly what that album was. I enjoyed it. Take it easy, everyone.